competition.
Bonus Box is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. To enter keywords, learn more, head to KFAN.com. That's KFAN.com.
76, they got the 73. For the third time this season, the Gophers with a court storm and the court rush and the win on Michigan State. Most impressive win of the year, never trailed and led it from the opening tip.
Mike Grimm on the call last night you could have heard it via the iHeartRadio app. If you have it, it's free, and it's one of the best apps in the radio business, no question about that. Wild win last night. Wolves win last night. Golden Gopher men's basketball team wins last night. The head coach, Niko Medved, kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. And as we welcome you back to the program, I'm going to give you a couple of nuggets that you, I'm sure, already are well aware of, but many in our audience might not be. Your club is the only Division I team in the last 30 seasons to have 0 bench points, get out-rebounded by double digits, allow 50-plus points in a half, and win the game. Now, I'm assuming, I used to kid Richard Pitino about how all the contract incentives he had. So I'm assuming you just made one of your incentives last night by still, under those conditions, finding a way to win the game. Do you get a bonus?
I don't know if I don't think it's in my contract, but maybe I have to talk to my agent.
Yeah, maybe you should.
I tell you what, too, and all of it happened in those last 3 minutes. I think we gave up 22 points, like in the last 3 minutes of the game, several offensive rebounds. It was a long 3 minutes.
Well, for you, I'm assuming you've had so many games in which you guys have either been in position to win or go to the wire, and too much of the time lately it had gone the other way. So I'm assuming you're going, all right, what can I do from the sidelines to try to not get the message out that you worry the players are going with, as in, oh, my God, it's happening again right in front of our eyes?
Yeah, it happens so fast. I mean, I've got a really resilient group. I mean, they keep coming back, giving themselves chances to win. But it all happens so fast. I mean, we're up 16, 3 minutes to go. And boy, it just, started to go the other way. And you got to give Michigan State a lot of credit. I mean, they threw in some shots.
Yes.
You're trying not to foul. You still have to play defense, but you don't want them to score quickly. But you just keep focusing on, even as a coach, hey, we just got to make the next play. And I kept feeling like, as long as we get the ball in bounds, make enough free throws, we were going to find a way to get a win. And boy, I tell you what, it felt good when that buzzer went off.
I can imagine.
I'm glad they ran out of time.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, how badly you needed that? Did you not?
No, we did. Our group needed it. I mean, they've kept battling and had a chance to win so many of these games, and we've been heartbroken. I mean, couple overtime losses, been walked off at the buzzer twice. So to come out there again against a team like that and perform the way we did, I mean, we earned that. We led wire to wire, great mindset. So even though it got a little hairy in the end, I thought we outplayed them, and we definitely deserved to win last night.
Well, I think your quote was, "It creates belief," right? Because this is the first year here, and obviously that's what you're attempting to inject and implement into this whole thing: belief.
Yeah, I think when I talked to you last time, you said, "Oh, what would a successful season look like?" Obviously, it's winning as many games as you can, and but in a bigger picture, it's like I wanted our players, the people around the program, and who followed us to say after the season that they were more excited for the future of Gopher basketball than they were when it started, and I think the guys are doing that. I think they are creating some belief in themselves and the fan base, and that hey. We're on the right track here. We just got to keep going, and if we do that, we can build a great program.
Who impressed you last night from your perspective on your side?
Jalen Crocker Johnson's a kid for us that he's the one guy that came with me from Colorado State. He's such a tough kid, great two-way player. I just thought, he probably needed an hour ice bath after that game, battling Michigan State's bigs. He was a little bit undersized at times, but he just fights like crazy. And I thought he was awesome. Obviously, he's a tough matchup because he can shoot the three, he can score inside, and again, he's a really good defensive player. I thought he was just terrific, and Langston Reynolds played great for us too. He had the matchup on Fears. I think it really impressed me when Fears, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but he's a hard guy to officiate.
Yes.
He can be a dirty player at times, and I thought he did a great job of keeping his cool when those things happened, and he was really good on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I actually was going to get to that, not necessarily this early, but he's become kind of a lightning rod figure, as you know, because of the back and forth that took place after the Michigan State game as well. And I thought Tom Izzo after the game did seem to acknowledge he's got to grow up. My player's got to grow up a little bit, even as he was maybe grumbling during the game about some of the calls. So what is your approach when there's a player who's on the line, close to the line, over the line occasionally? What's the message you try to convey?
Well, I think the first thing is, you got to make sure that the officials and other people are aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And obviously, if everybody is, and they are, sometimes some of those plays can be hard to catch live. It happens really quick. And listen, he's a great player. He's a tough kid. He's a competitor. He definitely crosses the line in several instances. I'll give Drew, our film guy, credit yesterday. They caught that play, where he kicked our guy after the whistle was blown. He caught that and said, "Hey, we got to challenge that, coach." And so I give him a lot of credit. I thought that was a big momentum thing for us. But then you're trying to help your guys, like, hey, let me worry about the officials. You got to keep your cool, because if you get caught up in all that, it can get out of hand in a hurry, and then you lose focus on what you need to do. So I give our guys a lot of credit, but he's a tough guy to officiate and play against, and I'm sure Coach will help get him under control, because, some of those plays are dangerous, and there's just no place for it.
Give me the Niko Medved more general basketball philosophy on style, because the story kind of broke out and the debate broke out after the Michigan State game, with the coaches kind of going back and forth. And to me, there's two potential issues. One is maybe one player in particular who's out of hand and needs to be kind of reined in here, or the more general debate that's taken place a long time in the Big Ten, that the Michigan State approach is too physical. They're given a bit too much license, maybe on the basis of, well, it's kind of what referees expect of them. What's the Niko Medved view on all of that?
Well, I get tired. Every year we're going to sit, in the spring after the season, and we're going to listen to the officials talk about cleaning up physical play, freedom of movement. It's the same crap every year. And once you get to this point in the season, it never seems to change. They allow you to hold cutters, chuck cutters. It gets really, really physical. There's a fine line somewhere. You've got to be able to compete. Listen, I've got no problem. Michigan State, the way they play, it's as good as it gets. They're tough. They always find a way to win. They run good stuff. Do I think sometimes the fans would prefer to have, a more aesthetically pleasing style of defense that way? But, it's the same thing every year. And it's probably like the NBA. When I watch the NBA, you look at the regular season, about the time you get to the playoffs, it's World War III out there. I remember going to the Wolves playoff game when I got here last year, and I'm sitting there right by the court.
Yeah.
And you watch LeBron and Ant go at it, and they're just bugging each other on every possession, and they're not calling a foul. So I just think inherently, as you get later in the season, conference play or in the NBA in the playoffs, it's just going to get more physical.
Obviously, you want to have more of a bench. You don't. I don't think your long-term designs is to have to just lean on 5 players or 6 players all the time, and it's a process to bring in players, add to the talent, keep people here, etc. But in terms of the landscape of sort of what you've tried to establish thus far, is it fair to say, here's what I see from afar. I see a coach who's already established what he already knew about himself. You know what you're doing. You know how to coach basketball, even at this level. And even if you haven't had as many wins as you want, which obviously I'm sure you want more, and it's about winning more than losing, right? That's established. The issue is, all right, can you supplement by bringing in enough talent and hold on to that talent, especially in a world in which obviously, rosters come and go every 15 minutes. To me, you've already established part of it. Do you feel that way? Am I giving you too much credit, enough credit? What do you think?
No, I feel that way. I think we did a really good job of finding guys who fit, guys who knew that, hey, this is the style of play we wanted, and I think they bought into that. Obviously, we need more depth and we need more talent across the board to compete at the highest level. But I think, we're starting from a good place. And just one of those years. I mean, injuries happen. That happens sometimes in these seasons. But no, I think we're on our way. And every year, Dan, I mean, you have a system and a style that you like, but every year is a little bit different. We're playing slower this year maybe than we ever have. And I think that's out of necessity. We're playing more zone defense this year than we ever have. Maybe that's out of necessity. So you have to tweak every year based on your players and what you have. But yeah, clearly we need more depth and a little bit more size and all those things. But we got to have the right guys. It's not just about collecting talent. You still have to build a team and get guys who play together and play the right way. And I think that's the art in all of it. And most of the successful programs, I think that's what they do. You look at Michigan State. I mean, you could look at the last 15 years and you just change the names on the back of the jersey, and they all play the same way, right?
Absolutely.
They rebound. They're great in transition. They defend. But they find the right kind of guys that fit them, and that's what we have to do here.
Give me the play that seemed to work early and often. I'm trying to figure out, is this something that you felt could be exploited with Michigan State, where you got a guy down low on the left side of the basket, and it seemed like that was working for you, posting up very effectively several times. What was that all about?
Well, I think sometimes with how we play, we're able to invert our offense. We've got really good spacing, and Langston Reynolds is a guard, kind of an old school guard. He's really crafty down there in the post and the long post. He's a really good passer, can get fouled, and just the matchup that we had, able to post him. And because Jalen Crocker Johnson's our big, but he can shoot the three. You have 4 shooters around him, and he was just able to create advantage. They had a guy on him who I thought was a hard matchup for them physically, and he created a lot of offense for us. They even doubled him late in the game, and we played out of that.
That's right.
I'm one of those guys, if it's working, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I think our guys did a really good job of finding him, and he had 8 assists last night too, 14 points. But yeah, I thought in the second half when we were able to kind of break it open a little bit, it was playing through the post
it helped.
With your guard, which is something that, I like to do.
He looked very, he's strong. He looked strong last night. That's what I liked. He, as you say, he looked very comfortable down there, whether he's going to end up going to the hoop or setting somebody else up. I thought that was obviously exploited very nicely against a very good coach, as you know, in Tom Izzo. We are chatting with Niko Medved, men's basketball coach, University of Minnesota. By the way, I'm reminded that tickets to Sunday's Gopher men's basketball game, $10 in the Pack the Barn effort, $10. We'll get into that in more detail maybe in a little bit. I actually want to spend the remaining time, if we can, talking about the story that Chip Scoggins, a former colleague of mine at the Star-Tribune, put together. I thought it's not surprising because Chip is very good at these sorts of depth stories that maybe other people have not really thought about or even been aware of the story. And it's the backstory of your family and where your dad came from, and sort of traces the path that has led you to the position where you are in now. The family going from Slovenia during World War II, fleeing the country after Slovenia comes under communist rule, and the family spends, what was it? I think it was 5 years in this displaced person's camp. I think it was a British-controlled camp. A terrific story that he laid out, I thought, very, very well. And I'm assuming you enjoyed it as well, because and I heartily recommend people wanting to get maybe a little insight into your family and your background that everybody take a look at it. It's quite a story.
I'm really thankful to Chip for taking the time to do that. He had approached me and said, "Hey, I'd love to tell the story on your dad." And I connected him with my folks. I think he went over and spent, a couple hours with my dad and my mom, kind of talking about the journey. And boy, he did. I thought he just wrote a terrific piece. And it was really even good for me knowing the story, but just to kind of, again, put it into perspective, starting from the beginning. And just imagine they lived in a horse stable for 5 years,
Amazing.
Without heat. I mean, basically just being able to eat enough just to stay alive. And it's really a remarkable story.
Indeed. I'm curious to know how young you were when you were introduced to the story or told it in depth. Because sometimes we hear these stories where, God, I didn't know half of this World War II stuff till I was like 35 years old. And other people say, well, I was told the story and aware of it almost from the beginning. How was it for you?
I think we knew, myself and my brothers, I think we knew, bits and pieces always growing up. And when my grandfather, my dad's dad, was still alive, we knew bits and pieces, but I don't think we really had a full grasp of the journey. And it probably honestly wasn't until, as I got into my 30s and a little bit later where I really started to understand more and, have my dad talk about it more in depth. So yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes as a kid, you're naive, and even young people today. I mean, Dan, that wasn't that long ago,
No.
And it's pretty recent history, and it's just, it kind of puts things into perspective here. I'd say the other really cool thing about it to me is, my grandfather, they were living in this horse stable. They had an opportunity to go to Argentina. I mean, they desperately wanted to get out and, find a permanent place to live. But he was so hell-bent on making sure they could go to America. And he's like, no, we're going to wait until we can go to America. And so I think that's really cool that he had the foresight to do that. Otherwise, they would have ended up in Argentina, and thank God they didn't. And they came to the U.S. and ended up in northern Minnesota, and kind of the rest is history.
Yeah, the story lays out nicely just how Spartan the conditions were in camp, and your dad told Chip, his dad said, "There's no whining, there's no complaining, there's no nothing." Which is, I put this in today's culture, and I go, "My God, I can't even imagine." But I'm interested too to learn, as I understand it, from what I remember about the story, I believe there were 3 women of Slovenian descent who were in Bowabic who sponsored your family that engineered this. Okay, we got a place to end up in. Do you know anything about? Is there anybody still in touch with anybody in that family? Their descendants? Do you know anything about that part of the story?
I haven't, but my dad and his family are still in touch. I mean, they obviously have a lifelong, relationship with that family who did sponsor them when they moved to Bowabic. I've never been in their original place that they moved into in Bowabic, but I've seen it. I've been by it. But yes, they still do have a relationship with those people. And I couldn't even tell you, Dan, exactly who's still around that way. But yes, that's a family that was really near and dear, obviously, to my family's heart. And
you're basically, your dad ends up buying, was it season tickets starting in 1971? Is that correct?
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, 2 years before I was born.
Astonishing.
Yep, when the old wooden benches there, kind of kitty corner from our bench.
Remarkable. The other part of the story I did not know. I knew some of this. I didn't know it in this depth. But I guess I didn't know the fact that you wanted to be a hockey guy. That's really what you were interested in being. And they basically, your parents said, not going to work, correct? You got to go a different direction.
Yeah, I think I was a pretty good hockey player. I loved it. I mean, I was hell bent on being a hockey player. And I skated every day. Roseville High School, where I went, obviously, is a huge hockey community. Sure. And I made the elite, traveling team. And, I think it was a couple of things. Obviously, the time commitment, still having 2 other brothers, it can kind of take, it's like your whole family's life.
Yes.
And the cost. I mean, it was so expensive. Yep. And so, I wasn't able to play at that level. And for me, if I couldn't play at that level, it just meant time to do something else. And I remember I was crushed, kind of in the moment, but it was about then I ended up, taking up basketball.
Yeah.
I didn't start basketball until I was like 7th, 8th grade. So I started later. But thank God I did. It's kind of worked out.
Well, have you ever thought about what you might be doing? Could you be coaching the Golden Gopher hockey right now instead of basketball if your parents had allowed you to stay on the hockey track?
Gosh, life goes so fast.
Yeah.
You don't spend much time thinking about it that way. But, gosh, I don't know if that'd be good for Gopher hockey. But, I loved hockey. I did. I just love sports in general.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit of everything, growing up. But I was small. I was always small, and I'm still small. I never hit that growth spurt. But yeah, it's just, again, life is just funny the way that
it is amazing.
Twists and turns, and things happen for a reason. And yeah, it's just it's an amazing story, and it just feels so cool every time I get to look in the stands and see my mom and dad there, getting a chance to watch. And I joke with my dad. I mean, he's a celebrity now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that for a minute. I mean, to have it come full circle, and some of this you've talked about before, but personally speaking, you still kind of have to be, I guess, kind of pinching yourself when you can, as you mentioned, look behind the bench. And there they are, and they'd been there, or they've been in that building, 55 years, even before, you were a factor in any of this. That's where they were, in that historic building.
Absolutely. And I, memories as a young kid going to the games, and I remember, going to the game when Judd Heathcote was coaching Michigan
there you
State.
go.
That's how long ago
right.
It was. And yeah, it's awesome. My dad's got great stories of some of the games. I mean, he remembers obviously the game against Ohio State when the fight broke out. And he's seen it. He's seen it all.
Well, the names, it's interesting. I grew up, I think I told you this, in Gary, Indiana. So the steel mills, especially back then, huge, right? And so you had people coming from all over. In my case, in my family, Spain. It could be Eastern Europe. And so I grew up watching high school teams. East Chicago, Washington had a great team. And I can still remember the names of the players. Drago Trifunovic, Mirko Blesic. So I see names like that were in this story, and I said, yeah, I recognize and relate to all of that. You end up feeling like it's a very, very small world, because that was another place where it became a melting pot simply because that's where the jobs were. And then folks who came from someplace else, they end up epoxying themselves to the new culture. They become part of it.
Absolutely. And you still go up to the Iron Range in Minnesota. There's a huge Slovenian contingent, there. It's the way these cities, were built, these communities were built. And so you still, when you travel up there, you still feel that today.
So what do you got going on Sunday? Tickets available, I'm told, for like $10 to pack the barn. What's the, how can you entice people to
$10 tickets?
Yeah.
Maryland, coming in. We've also got our Sky Yuma Strong event, which is our cancer awareness event, which is really cool. We partner with Masonic Children's Hospital here, and our players actually, Dan, are going to wear the names of the cancer patients that they are playing for on the back of their jerseys. They're all coming over to practice tomorrow to get a chance to meet us. And so it's a really cool thing that I took with us from Colorado State that I think our community will really, really like. I
really appreciate the time, sir. Congrats. And I know a much needed victory last night. I'm sure you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of, my God, what would it have felt like if we had been unable to hold on to that lead, but you did. And that's what matters. And as you say, you need, you certainly needed it. So thanks again for the extended chat.
Well, we did, and then think about it. All the Minnesota teams won last night.
That's right.
See, it happens sometimes.
That's it.
Right?
By the way, do you have a scouting report on Dosunmu? Did you ever coach against Ayo Dosunmu, who the Wolves just acquired from the Bulls?
Oh, I remember Ayo in high school and watching him, in Chicago.
Yeah.
He is a tough kid. I think it's a great pickup for the Wolves. I do. I think he's going to be a great fit. He's got a defensive mindset, can make shots. I think he's got a competitive toughness. I think that's a really good pickup. So,
yeah, it's a sneaky good move, I think. Yeah,
I think Tim Conley's really good at his job.
He reminded me. He said, "Well, I feel like I've some drafts haven't worked out, so I gotta make up for it somehow." And sometimes, as you know, at the pro level, it's acknowledging it ain't working. I can't pretend any longer, so let's go out and try to fix it by getting somebody in return.
Absolutely. And again, like, none of this is an exact science. And I think sometimes when you got to find the Wolves are close. So I think it's a great pickup here. They're in position, and I think they're going to position themselves to have another late season run here.
Thanks very much for the extended time. Again, congratulations. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
Absolutely. That is the head men's basketball coach, University of Minnesota, Niko Medved. In fact, our next guest is going to talk A-section stuff, but I think his most recent appearance at a sporting event was a Golden Gopher men's hockey game, as it turns out. I had no idea he was a puckhead. I thought he was a football guy, but maybe he's more versatile than that. We will find out, and then we'll get into more serious issues as well with former U.S. Attorney Andy Luger. He's next.
One night, one stage, one epic band, My Chemical Romance. Target Field, August 24th. You can grab your tickets before they're gone. Get all the details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
All right. Andy Luger is in studio right now. He'll join us for most of, close to the next hour. Don't forget, we don't have Top 5 at 5 because we're going to do Andy. We may get some sports headlines later. We'll review the Wolves situation, trade situation as well, now that the deadline has been passed and the Wolves did add, a helpful player, but obviously not the Greek Freak, not Giannis. Andy, we come to find out, like Niko Medved, who, when he was a kid, was a big hockey guy, we come to find out you have greater hockey sensibilities that I previously understood. What's that all about?
So, let's correct the record. I admitted on this show a couple of times ago that I'm not a hockey fan. I love every sport. I don't get hockey. I don't understand hockey. I never played hockey. I can't skate. But, I came home one day to find out we're going to a hockey game. And it was one of those, you don't question it. I just stood there. And, this is what we're doing, and this is who we're doing it with, and dress warm, because it's not like going to a basketball game, because I'd probably been 30 years since I've been to a hockey game.
Yeah, right.
So there's a blue line, there's a red line, and there's, icing. Mm-hmm. There's people are telling me stuff, and I was at a hockey game.
Which they won.
And they won. It was the Badgers.
Right.
So
yeah, border battle.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I come from New Jersey. We didn't have border battles. There were
No, that's true.
There were street battles.
Yeah, that's very true.
My town versus the town next to us.
Did you stay for the whole game? Kinda.
It was the plan.
Okay,
to stay for the whole game.
Right.
We stayed for so it's three. Okay. It's 3 periods.
3 periods in hockey. That's correct.
2.5 periods.
That's not bad. That's okay.
I was proud of myself.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's hanging in very good, because you're mainly football guy. You made that clear.
Right.
You're Vikings guy, and you continue to be J.J. McCarthy guy.
I am.
Against the wind, right?
Yeah.
Because he's on the run right now in this town, as you know. And you're doubling down on your belief that if they just let him, if the quarterback whisperer just lets him play through some mistakes, get his legs under him, he can still be the guy.
And we need 4 300-pound guys in front of him.
Yeah, well, that's...
Every successful team has a great offensive line.
Well, you were a lineman, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah,
that's why I say that.
Yeah.
And I played on successful and unsuccessful teams. But give him a chance to play, but give him the guys in front of him who can give him more than a second to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And look, I'm gonna root for Sam Darnold Sunday.
You are going to. So you're not going to be. You're not miserable about the fact that Sam has exceeded what he did here.
Good for him.
Okay.
And we had our shot. I thought we made a smart decision. By the way, worst comes to worst, I'm wearing my Josh Dobbs jersey. Because he is the backup.
That's true. I forgot about that.
It's inconceivable that my hero gets to play.
Could end up playing. Yeah. Think about that.
So that's not why he invited me here, but since you asked,
no anger about Darnold, no frustration about that we didn't do A-Raj.
No.
The experiment. No, none of that.
I've heard you talk about the A-Raj. No. You make a decision. It was a reasonable, rational decision. He got hurt twice.
Well, the decision, it sounds like, in retrospect, is they thought they had a great chance of hedging with Daniel Jones as an option.
Right. I heard you talk about
he
that,
has not, obviously he decided to go elsewhere, which I think was smart on his part because he knew they wanted JJ to be the starter.
Right.
All right, let's get to some toy department or non-toy departments.
They lost that bet. That
yes, they did. They
and
definitely
sometimes
lost
you do, but that doesn't change my opinion of what McCarthy can be next year or the year after.
All right, let's get to, maybe this will be the introductory salvo to go in a slightly different direction than what I mentioned before the show. Is Andy going to have to go back to work to fill an opening? That may be your entree to discuss what's going on at the office. You helped to build U.S. Attorney's Office. What's going on, and what are how are you bitter? Are you angry? Are you philosophical? What do you say?
So I think most of us living former U.S. attorneys are heartbroken is the word that I would use. We're grieving. Each of us tried to build that office into something great. And I think we all left our mark. We all did a good job, and now it's in tatters. And it's such an important institution for our state. It's so important to public safety. It's so important to people's belief in the government. I tried my best, as did my predecessors, to stand up for justice in our own way and with the priorities of Minnesotans in mind. And right now, that's all gone down the drain.
And is it 14 now that have resigned? Now, do we know, are all the reasons the same? Is it some of the same? I know you know.
So we can't read everybody's mind.
Right.
And it's not only the numbers. I mean, people leave, people move on.
Right.
There's a constant inflow and outflow from those offices. What's different is you started off with 6 leaders, 6 career people who had, helped build everything that office stood for. And then another wave of leaders, Anna Voss. I mean, I just read this stuff in the paper. I don't talk to anybody. I'm not asking people, but
right.
Anna Voss carried the civil division. I made her civil division chief the first time I was U.S. attorney, and she's been there ever since. And she's a pillar. She's not leaving because, I'm going to get another job. My view is she's a career person. There's no reason to stay for some of these people, and it's almost abhorrent what's happening. The work that they're being told to do is not what people signed up for and not what they believe in. And this is a job you take because you believe in it. And if it no longer is what you believe in, you can stay and try to wait it out and see if it turns around, and that's fine. And I applaud the people who are staying. Or you can say, I just can't do this. I don't believe in it, and it's against my principles.
Because they are being led they're being told the directions that they need to go in to continue to stay in their positions?
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this. This whole immigration obsession comes from Washington. There's not a person I've ever talked to in law enforcement in all the years I've been here and all the years I've been a prosecutor or defense lawyer whoever said our number one priority needs to be immigration. Gangs, guns, fraud, you name it. Fentanyl, heroin in the old days. Never, ever immigration. Did we do immigration cases? Sure, we all did. And there are important immigration cases to bring.
Yep.
But the entire focus of the office on immigration and now, protesters and prosecuting them, prosecuting Don Lemon, prosecuting all these people versus the work that literally is not being done. And I think that's intolerable to some.
I went a little long with Niko, so let's get caught up, get our first break in. Former U.S. Attorney Andy Luger will be with us, and we've got plenty of time to explore lots of subjects, including ongoing negotiations between Tom Holman and, let's say, the counties regarding who can be arrested, who can be detained. There's a lot of stuff to get through, having to do, I think, also with understanding the semantics and trying to be precise with what the language really means, because I think it means different things to different people, which leads to a lot of the misunderstanding. We'll get a quick pause in now and continue with Mr. Luger next.
If you want to chime in what's happening with your favorite KFAN Joes, you can. You can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard text message and data rates apply.
Andy Luger back with us in studio. So what can you tell us on the record, obviously, because you're on the radio, about behind the scenes negotiations going on between Holman and perhaps the counties, and in whatever negotiations are presumably to try to lessen the tensions, get us to a place where we're not, walking on eggshells every 15 minutes. What are the key components that are being negotiated?
To back up, when this all started, there were two really broad misconceptions or pieces of rhetoric that many of us who have been involved in trying to talk this through knew would go by the wayside. One, that this was all Tim Walz's fault. And it's not. And it's not because I love Tim Walz, but there's a state law that requires state prisons to notify ICE when somebody that they want to detain her on is going to be released. And they have to do that. There's no discretion. So there's nothing, everybody was beating up on Tim Walz and sanctuary state and all this nonsense. He had to do what he was doing. The corrections department was doing what they were doing. And the federal government had to ultimately say, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Holman acknowledged that eventually, correct?
Right. But we started out this whole thing, and this is what drove people like me crazy who actually care about the law, is this started with a misconception at best, or a falsehood. So you take the state out of the equation. Then you got Minneapolis. Well, Fry won't cooperate and this, that. There's a 23-year-old city law that prohibits the police from asking about immigration status or working with ICE. It's not just Minneapolis. And by the way, that's the law that qualifies us as a sanctuary city. That's the term that was used going all the way back.
Is that law problematic in your opinion?
No. I think it makes perfect sense for the following reason. And most police chiefs that I've talked to in law enforcement agree. The reason is not because people love illegal immigrants. It's because if you start asking everybody when they call you as a victim of a crime or a witness in a crime, what's your status? Are you here legally or illegal? People stop calling. And then that community clearly becomes targets for crime. It's a pure law enforcement play. I lived in New York. Giuliani was the mayor of New York after being one of the most successful U.S. attorneys, and he believed in it. He promoted it back when Rudy Giuliani was the Giuliani people like me knew and respected. It was just part of the fabric. You separate the two. Not that the police are going to stop ICE, but there's a reason to not cooperate. And whether Jacob Fry as the mayor or anybody as the mayor wanted that or not, it's in the law. There's no discretion. So what I've been saying from the beginning, to everybody who would listen is take the state out of it because they're doing everything the government wants. Take the city out of it because they can't do anything the government wants. What are you left with? You're left with the county jails. And the numbers are minute of what we're talking about. And that's what frustrates. I'll go through what the options are, but that's what's frustrating is because in Hennepin County right now, the biggest jail we've got about 20 people out of the almost 1,000 people at the Hennepin County Jail, about 20 that qualify for what ICE is seeking.
All right, well then, but why not give them the 20?
Well, here's why. And that's a subject for debate, and it's a good subject for debate. So here are the options available to every county jail. One, we don't cooperate. We don't call you. They know. ICE knows where people are, what jail, and who they want.
Do they?
Yeah.
They haven't seemed to always.
Well, they know.
Okay.
Whether they show up.
Right, yeah.
There's lists. This is public. Mm-hmm. It's not complicated. So there could be 3 people in Meeker County Jail, I'm making this up, who they want. They know that they're there. Mm-hmm. The jail can say, we're going to call you when they get released. The jail can say, we're not going to call you. The jail can say, you can put somebody in our jail to be there, to take them when they're released, if you got the bodies. There's a number of those options. What the law says is that they can't hold somebody after their release date because ICE wants them to. That can be changed. But right now, anybody who's tried to do that, sheriffs have been sued. Because think about it. I got bail. I'm released, state conditions. It's all done. What do you mean you're going to keep me here? What do you mean you're going to, we're going to sit around, have a cup of coffee until ICE can come? You have no basis for doing that. they're negotiating that right now, whether there's a way to do that in good faith, the feds and the locals. But not every sheriff wants to do that. Not every county board wants their sheriff to do that. And we come back to the issue of local control. It's great that the feds want to do that. And if you believe in what this mass deportation mission is, great. But you don't get to impose that will on a local government official. The sheriff reports to the Hennepin County voters or the Ramsey County voters, not to the president. And the two are separate. That's what federalism's all about. That's what states' rights are all about. So you can agree or disagree, but that's where the rub is.
All right, so what's being negotiated now?
What are the county jails? What are the sheriffs going to do? Are they going to all do the same thing? Or we got 84 sheriffs, 84 counties. Is it 84?
I should know, but I'm not one of us either.
And
I'm also an interloper. Who got here first? I think you got here first.
No, you got here first.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's another reason why I can't run for governor. On the long list of reasons why
that's
it's
true.
Either 86, 87, or 84. I've been to most of them as U.S. attorney. Everybody gets to make their own decision. The statewide Sheriff's Association is working on it. There are other options. ICE can have these people arrested federally, in which case there's no discretion to the local sheriff if they choose to do that. And so, everybody's talking about these different options. To me, what's most important is how minuscule these numbers are. And we got 3,000 agents showed up. Again, the state has no discretion. They've got to do what ICE wants. This Minneapolis has no discretion. They can't do what ICE wants. The only area of discretion is in the state jails or the county jails, and there ain't that much.
Well, so I sent this to you a while ago, and I'm not sure if you ever answered it. Explain to me. I'm looking at this was, I think, from Feb a year ago, actually, and I think it's a release regarding the Attorney General's office. A formal legal opinion that Minnesota law prohibits state and local law enforcement agencies from holding someone based on an immigration detainer if the person would otherwise be released from custody. So, explain precisely what that means, and if it's what it sounds, then it would seem like that's a roadblock that is getting in the way of resolution here. So, explain what that means and why that's in place if the idea is to cooperate.
Well, it's in place because people were held for detainers in county jails, and the counties got sued. So
that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And so what the Attorney General did was codify that in an opinion, which is what Attorney Generals do, and say, look, here's our legal opinion. You can't do this. Now, is there a way to do it around state law, around state constitutional law? I don't know. That's being discussed. But you can't ignore an opinion from the Attorney General after these lawsuits that says, you can't do it. And so that all has to be negotiated without the rhetoric and the hatred and the screaming and yelling and calling everybody names. You guys, the feds want X. The city can't do X. Counties can do maybe some of X. So one idea is we can call you and say, Joe's going to be released on Tuesday. Joe's one of the people on your list. Come get him. One, take somebody to call, take somebody to show up. There's coordination.
But if you don't show up, we're releasing.
We can't, right? We can't hold them.
When you say the county can say we can't, but I think the question, and I'm guessing in some of our listeners' minds is, does the county want to? Because I think part of this is, okay, are you in a sense, I hate to say hiding behind the law because the law is pretty important. I get that. But that it almost lends the impression of we really don't want to get out of this morass and try to get to a compromise, not because we think we should, but that we've got something that's stopping us, but that's what we prefer anyway. Even if it wasn't there, that's really in our heart what we want to do.
I don't know the answer to that. Let me throw a wrinkle into this that nobody's talking about, but I talk about. So the people in county jails are not convicted. They're charged. So somebody's charged with a rape. Let's use that example because it's come up. And that person's here illegally. Goes on the list. ICE wants that guy. So ICE waits. He gets out. They take him. He's, gone. He's in Guatemala. The rape victim is sitting around going, well, wait a minute. I want justice. I want my day in court. I want this guy to be convicted of a crime. So it's always a little bit more complicated. It's easy to say, get these terrible people out of here, but you got prosecutors waiting around to have the trial. You've got judges waiting around for the trial, and the victim. Where are her rights?
Let's make this top the hour pause. I want to ask you a couple of Holman questions, and then I actually want to talk a little about Chris Madel, who was in the chair you were in. I think it was last week, because I think you agree with him on some stuff, and I think you vehemently disagree with him on some other things as well. We'll continue with our in-studio guest, former U.S. Attorney Andy Luger, next here in the